Welcome once again. In our previous presentation, we demonstrated and showed that the letters constituting the Hebrew alphabet, 22 letters in all, from Aleph on the one hand to Tav on the other, are the basis for explaining and developing the human energy field. This model, as we see on the board, is a model of symmetry. It's a model with a base, a foot, a foundation, with the Aleph here and the Tav there. The totality. In the beginning, God created 8 Hashemayim, the 8 Haaretz, everything. Here it is, as a foundation, fundamental, everything in the fundamental creation at the very beginning. And then you have evolution, going up, rising to the very top, rising to the highest elevation of the human being in his energy field. In other words, constituting the higher human self right up to there. And what does it have there? Kol. Kol is everything. Everything, the totality, going up. And what is more, everything is symmetrical. You have perfect symmetry here. And as a result, you have at the very top, in the Kol, in the totality, you have super symmetry. And these are the things that the scientists are looking for today, and we have it in our own energy field. They're looking at the end of the universe to find what comprises the totality. They have forgotten that it's all within us. That is the amazing thing. Now, we developed this relative to the Shabbat, because the Shabbat is the beginning. It constitutes the beginning of formation. It gives us information, because these letters are the letters of language, and language gives us information, and language gives us formation. It is all there. And if the language, the letters of language, are information, as we have it here, we can have at the end the totality of universal information. And this all comes from the Shabbat. And here we have that secret. And what is the secret? You start at the right, of course. You want to start right. And you come to the Tav, the totality. But then you have a reversed process. Shuv, going back, the Shin here, going back to the Bet. Shin, Bet, Tav. A reversed process. And that is something that we have to try and understand. Because the secret of everything lies in that reversed process. The Teshuvah, going back to fundamentals in order to understand the highest evolution, the highest development, right at the top. I introduced the term human energy field, HEF. The question rises immediately. Human energy field? You look at the Torah, you go into the Torah, where everything is supposed to be in the Torah, because it is the basis of everything. Do you find the word human energy field anywhere in the Torah? It has to be there, and of course it is there. So what is the human energy field? Well, it's very simple. It's a term with which most of us are familiar. If not in the Hebrew, then certainly in other languages. In the Hebrew, it is the neshama. Neshama. And what is a neshama? How is it translated? Well, the fundamental translation is neshama is the soul. Not the soul in the sea, but the S-O-U-L. What is the soul? We don't know. But when we say that the soul is a human energy field, now everything makes sense. Neshama. And what is the basis of neshama? Nasham. Nasham is to breathe in, to take in energy. Nasham. Right? Now, where and how? Through the nose. That is how we do it. Basically through the nose. Now, let us have a look at the model of the nose. We carry it. Each and every one of us carries this basic model. And what is the model of the nose? There are two entrances, two side entrances, like that. And then it all comes together at the top, and there is a line in between. That is the nose. And the taking in of energy. You take in the energy, universal energy, cosmic energy from all over. And what is the effect? When we breathe out, you have warmth and you have moisture. Warmth, which is the manifestation of energy, and moisture, which is substance, material. Look at this. Look at that little thing. It is identical with the model of all the letters of the alphabet which we have had and which we have been talking about. Going up on the one side, coming down on the other, meeting in the center. There it is. We carry the model within us. And this is the model of the human energy field, and it starts with the neshama. And the neshama is the total of the human energy field, because there are 5 levels. We are told that the universe was created with the number 5. The manifestation of the 5 comes again and again and again. And here we have it in the human energy field. 5 levels, going from the very, very basic, which is the chaya, right up to the highest neshama. Now, what is the chaya? Oh, the chaya is the basic, the very beginning. And the chaya begins with Adam Rishon, first Adam. And we are told that divinity takes of the dust of the earth and from all the corners of the earth, and he breathes into him. He breathes into him the ruach, the spirit of life, and he becomes a nefesh chaya. He's alive. And the chaya is life generally, not only for the human being, but for every manifestation of life, like the chayot, the wild animals. They're all living, they all breathe, they all take in of the energy of the earth. That is the lowest level, that we share with each and every one of us. But we evolve, we come to the highest level, and that highest level is right at the top there, which is the level of kol, and the kol is all. The kol is everything, right up there. And here, at this particular level, you have the manifestation of the Shama, and it becomes one here, a single point. And that single point, which is unmanifest in our lower real world, is the manifestation of eternity. And then the Shama eventually goes back to what we call the Gan Eden, eternity. And we see that the human energy field evolves and develops and grows up. And if we evolve, if we grow, if we come up in our life, then we are there forever. By the way, we are familiar with one of the levels of the human energy field, which is called the aura, the human aura. And the aura is about us. It is that which is related to or, and or is light. And here there is a direct reference to the aura in the Torah, because we are told that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe our teacher, goes up. He goes up to the upper spheres and he comes down with the 2 tables of the Aseret HaDibrot, the Luchot HaBrit, the tables of the 10 statements, divine statements of revelation. And we are told, Karan or Panav, that the light of his presence came out in rays, Karan, to a degree that people couldn't look at him. And so he had to carry a veil. He had to cover himself up. His aura was just jumping around with light. People couldn't look at him. It was delightful. And there are people this day who can see auras, they can read auras, they can understand auras. And when the aura is healthy, when it is full of light, then we manifest perfection in formation. We don't have to be healed. We are well. And that is what the Shabbat does. The Shabbat, as a reversed process, gives us perfect information, which means at the end of Shabbat, when we have been, as it were, reconstituted and ready for another round, we have a beautiful aura around us. Now, let us see how we can take all this, which may seem to be perhaps beyond us, and bring it us to each and every one of us, that we may benefit immediately, right away, from the principles through the keeping of the Shabbat. Let us present our thoughts through a real story. And I come down to my own family, my children. My children, 4 of them, blessed may they be, were born within a short period of time, an interval of 5 years in all between the oldest and the youngest. The oldest, the girl, and 3 boys. And therefore, they were and are close to each other. Now, when they were children, I decided to buy them a Sefer Torah, a copy of the Torah, not a real Torah that we use in our divine services, but a copy. In other words, the whole of the Chumash, the whole of the 5 books of Moses, printed on paper in the form of a scroll and contained in a cover looking like the Torah scroll, replete with the sticks and everything else. If you looked at it, you wouldn't know that this is not the real thing. And the purpose? For them to play with. But to assist them, I took a wooden box and I converted the wooden box into an ark for the Torah, gave them a curtain, and in front put the perpetual light, a light with a globe which burnt, and told them, here you have it, play with this Torah in the ark with the curtain and the light in front of it for the perpetual light, the symbol of the eternity of the Torah and the eternity of the people Israel and the possible eternity of each and every one of us in that light, the light of the aura. Well, so they played. And the family has a recording which was taken, and the recording is still there to this very day. And what is this recording? Of the family playing shul shul. They were playing a synagogue practice, a service. Well, they had to allocate, each and every one of us had to do something. And by the way, in age at that particular time, the oldest was no more than 8 to 9, which means that the youngest was no more than 3 to 4 years old. Well, the oldest, the girl, she was the audience. She was the one who came to hear, to listen, to benefit. And then the 3 boys, well, the oldest decided he is the rabbi. And the second one, he is the chazan. And the third, well, all that is left is shamash. And so therefore, each and every one of them have a role. And how does the recording begin? Well, the oldest boy, who is the rabbi, and he decides, and he says, well, I'm going to start off with, and how do I start off? I start off with a sermon. Right. And how does he begin his sermon? He says 3 words in the beginning. And these are the 3 words of the beginning of the development of the ideas of this presentation. What does he say? Very simply, he says, keep the Shabbos. Keep the Shabbos. That's what he says. What does he mean? He cannot mean how we understand keeping the Shabbat. Because he is young. He is unable to differentiate. The time and the age are differentiated, we find in our model. In our model, which goes up and down. Differentiation is at the top, with the kaf and the lamed. The kaf is 11, the lamed is 12. In the 11th and 12th years, every human being begins to differentiate. That we all do. In our 11th, 11 going on to 12, and 12 going on to 13. Female, male. We differentiate. But they are only oldest, 8 to 9, 3 to 4. They cannot differentiate. So how do they understand? Keep the Shabbos. What exactly can my son, who is between 7 and 8 years old, saying when he says, keep the Shabbat? Well, it could mean keep it in hand, keep it up, or keep it ongoing. Let us have a look at the first. Keep it in hand. It is precious. So, if you have something precious, you take your hand, you keep it in hand. It's valuable. You don't want to let it go. You want to have it at all times. It is something precious for him. It's something that he wants. He wants to preserve it. Then we have a look at the next, to keep it up. In other words, you have it, you have to keep it up. And what do? You take the hand and you keep it up. Here it is, you keep it up. Or keep it ongoing. And when ongoing, like this, you're going on and on and on. And each and every time we have this as our model to demonstrate them all. Keep it in hand, keep it up, keep it ongoing. It is our hand. And what is the hand? The hand is the bent palm of the hand, the cuff. The cuff. And what is the cuff? Of course, you have the cuff of the sleeve at the end, which is bent over. The same idea. There is a bending there. But you have a look at the model. You have a look at our basic model. The cuff is right at the top. It is the letter cuff. You've got the cuff here, and you've got the lamed on the other side. The cuff and the lamed, the two opposites. There it is. Right here. That is it. Right now, what is the big thing about this cuff? The bent palm of the hand. Look how I'm using it. It's so easy for it to flex and to reflex. Simple. I hold it, or I let go. I want it, I keep it. Don't want it. Well, let go. Gone. I have it. I don't have it. One, going in, smaller. The other, going out, bigger. In other words, keeping it in. Bring it into yourself. Taking it in. Digesting it. Having it within. Or letting go. Out. If it is out again, you look up, you see. It is all there. It is all so easy. The action is easy. Its reflex action is easy. There is no effort. There is no energy required. And if you don't like it, open, go. That is the basis of the Shabbat. That is how the child understands it. It is so easy to keep. There is no effort in it, and if you don't like it, you let it go. But what you like about it, the things that you take in, and everything is so wonderful that you take in. Look at the things. First of all, there is the light, the delight, the joy of the Shabbat. And you take in all the delicious food that is presented, the regularity, the singing, the vibrations, the beauty, everything, the beauty of the table, the beauty of our clothing. Everything is so lovely, everything is so lovely. You want to take it, you want to keep it, you want to have it, you want to enjoy it. And if you don't like it, gone. It's simple and easy and enjoyable. And you keep it up like this. And furthermore, it stays up. And if you don't like it, you let go. That's it. No effort. You don't have to worry. You don't feel the Shabbat as weighty. There is no weight of responsibility felt at all in the child. It's something to enjoy from beginning to end. And everything that requires effort, you don't even have to worry about it. For over 24 hours, all you have is pleasure. And because everything is so easy, you don't give out energy. You are able to re-establish and take in from all the food and everything else more and more energy without giving much out. Now, let us carry on. We look at the idea of keep the Shabbat in the way we can look at it and the way we can develop the idea from the child. And we add, keep in mind. Be mindful of it. How does the Torah introduce the basis of the Shabbat, the principle of the Shabbat? Well, we have the Shabbat in the beginning, but the idea of keeping it comes in the 10 statements of revelation which come down from Sinai. And we have it in the 4th statement. And in the 4th statement, there is a variation, because the 4th statement, all the statements are mentioned twice in the Torah. First time in the original and second time in the end in the book of Devarim. And there's a slight variation. Because in the first one, you have the word zachor, and zachor is to remember. And in the second one, you have shamor. Shamor, how do we translate shamor? Shamor, keep it. It's a question of looking. Zachor, looking back to remember. And shamor, looking out to see. So, in the mind, everything in the mind comes in and out through, basically, to start off with, the eyes. To start off with. Because the in and out is through all the senses. And by the way, how many senses are there? We'll come to that. Well, the eyes, that is the beginning. Shamor. Look out. Keep it. You want to see it in its totality. Shamor. With your eyes. Look out. A shomer, a guardian, who is looking out, he is watchful. He uses it with his eyes. He has to look. And he also has to hear. Which comes first? Interestingly enough, the sound comes before the sight. Because you hear things before you see them at night. You hear things, you don't even see them. Ears and eyes work together. Right, and so you're looking out. And then the zachor, you're looking back to what remains behind. And remains behind within you. And so therefore, there is an input which remains. There are 2 movements in the mind. The one is outward, the one is inward. And notice the outward, clockwise. Inward, anti-clockwise. Outward, expanding, growing bigger. And of course, that is the movement in time. Because in time, the universe is growing, the universe is expanding. And of course, it is cooling at the same time. And so, we are all saying, and people are saying, there's going to be an end of the universe. And it's the same thing with a human being. He expands, he grows, it grows up. And then comes the period of the autumn and the winter. Cold, he has to die. That is the feeling. But what does the Shabbat teach us in the keeping in mind? There is the outward movement, but there's also the keeping in, the remembering. And the remembering is going inward. It is the reverse. The 2 actions take place on Shabbat. Because the shamor and the zachor, the looking out, and the zachor, the looking in, are both aspects at one and the same time on the Shabbat. Let us go a stage further. The looking out and the looking in. The one, the opposite of the other. And we have a look at our model. We talked about the eyes. And what is an eye in Hebrew? It is an ayin. The ayin, the eye. Right. And you have the verb la'ayin. La'ayin has a number of meanings, but it's always looking at what you see. It can be looking askance at something, you don't like it. You look at it, no, it's not for you. Because the ayin has a sound. No, don't like it. That is the sound. But it can be looking, that it makes you look up with pleasure. What you see is so beautiful, so wonderful, so lovely. And it is looking up. And what does it give you? It gives you oneg. And what is oneg? Oneg is pleasure. The oneg Shabbat, the pleasure of Shabbat. It is so pleasurable in the real world. And you actually see the pleasure. You see it on the faces of people. You see it on the behavior of people. You see it when people come together, whether it is in family, whether it is in community, whether it's in society on the Shabbat. The pleasure is there, the smiles on the faces, that of the real world. It is all positive. Positive. And what does the word oneg mean? You've got the ayin and then you've got the word neg. And the word neg is negative. This acts against negativity. There is no negativity on Shabbat. And negativity, you reverse the whole thing, and remember everything you have to look at in reverses. Oneg, what is the reverse? The nega. And what's a nega? Nega is a plague. A plague. You avoid it like a plague. It's something that you have nothing to do with it. You avoid, you let it go. And that's the whole point. On Shabbat, you let go. You let your hair down, as it were. You let go. You even let the negatives go. The nega, you don't want it. Yeah. Don't have it. Just release it. Psht. Gone. Oneg, nega. No nega. The negative. Gone. Now, have a look at the ayin in our model. Where is it? Well, what is the numerical value of ayin? Ayin is 70. The 70 years of one life, which can be one day. Life is a pleasure. It goes away, just like that. Fleeting in time, gone. That which is pleasurable doesn't remain behind, it's just a memory. Everything goes in a flash, gone. And 70 is 7. 7 is Shabbat. But there is another opposite. Have a look in the model and see which is opposite to the ayin. And the ayin is the zayin. The zayin. And what is in zayin? Well, it is not what the ayin is looking. But in the German, for example, in the Yiddish, zu sehen, to see. It's the same thing, or rather, it seems to be the same thing. It seems to be looking, zu sehen, the zayin. And it is a seeing. It remains. It doesn't go away. That is the inward action, the inner. The eye can be seen in two ways. The mind takes in from the outer world, but the mind also reflects of the inner world. The zayin can be the inner eye. And the inner eye acts on the Shabbat. Because whatever we see, all the pleasures that we see, we reflect on them. We take in. We think about it. And we have that reflection all the time. The thinking about it. And we can even fall into the Zen sleep, the surface, the 40 winks, when we reflect on things. It is an outward action, and it is an inner action, giving out and taken in. And that is the Shabbat, the reversed process of the other. But further than that, what do we take in most? In the Zayin, the Zzz. And what is the Zzz? Coming from the Ozen, coming from the ear. It becomes eerie, doesn't it? But let us look at it in reality. What is it that comes in from the Ozen, the ear? What do we hear at the outset of the Shabbat, the very beginning of the Shabbat, which continues and increases as the Shabbat goes on and on? It is the blessing. Blessing. Blessing is like the oneg, the joy. Blessings, because all the blessings are blessings of joy. And where do they start? They start in the home. When the queen of the house lights the candles and she brings in light. And it is the light of the Shabbat. And the light of the Shabbat is the light of the Shekhinah. It's the light of the divine presence. It is the light of the energies of the vibrations which come from above, from the mind. And she sanctifies the Shabbat with it. There is no change. Sanctification. The Shabbat is holy. What does it mean it is holy? There's no change. It is constant. It remains. And the Shabbat is full of blessing. From beginning to end, there are more blessings on the Shabbat than on any other day, from blessing to blessing. Right. And the Torah, remember, begins with a bet. The letter bet. And one of the reasons given why the Torah begins with a bet, because a bet is the first letter for bracha, blessing. Bracha. Baracha. And levarech, to bless. And you have a look at levarech, and you have a look at numerical equivalent, it's 2, 2, 2. And we say 2, 2, 2 when we want something not to happen. 2, 2, 2. And 2, 2, 2 is 6. It's the totality of everything which is brought in to the Shabbat with the first blessing. And the blessing is a bending. You bend and you come up. It is a bending moment. The blessing. A bending moment. If you know anything about mechanics, if you know anything about engineering, if you know anything about stresses and strains, if you know anything about construction, if you know anything about buildings, if you know anything about bridges, and notice, bridges, buildings, with a B. You know about bending moments. Because at bending moment, you go down. And there is a reflex reaction immediately like the hand opening and closing, coming up, the bending movement. You come up straight, and you stand up straight, and you keep up straight. You are elevated. You are uplifted. And that is what the engineer does. He works with bending moments. He works with steel. Steel keeps things up. Steel has that quality of being expanded and contracted. Steel. How much more so a human being of tissue that he can bend and come up straight again without any effort. Back, standing, upright, keeping up. Because the bending moment enables us to stand up. And when we stand up, we look up and we look out. There is an elevation from the physical to the spiritual. And that happens all the time on Shabbat. Blessings upon blessings. Blessings which come from below. And blessings which comes from above. To give an example, we have all this food on Shabbat and we think of divinity as Hazanet Olam Kulo, who feeds the whole universe. And what is the word Zan? And look at it, the Zayin, the 7 which comes down. Z, Z. Z is 7. It comes down from above. We can't see it, but we see it in the mind. It is the gift of God from heaven. That is where it starts. And that is everything that we hear read from the Torah itself on the Shabbat morning. The vibrations. And the vibrations is in terms of the octave. And the octave has 7 notes. And then again, it is that which comes in from the 7 colors, the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 colors of beautiful colors. And the 7, what do they constitute? They constitute white. And there's an accent on white on Shabbat. You have a white tablecloth. You have a white background. You have a white shirt. The white, the totality, the completion. Because the ayin and the zayin complement each other. It keeps it constant. It keeps it holistic. It keeps it as one. We refer to the Shabbat relative to the 7 days of creation. But there were only 6 days of creation. What was the 7th day of creation? Well, if you have a look at the very beginning, you find that what does divinity do? He does create something on the 7th day. And it is called menucha. Menucha. And what is menucha? Menucha is rest. That is what it is. Creates rest. And that is the big quality of Shabbat. We are totally and completely restful. We are at rest. There is no physical output which gives stress, which gives strain, which gives effort. Not at all. It's so restful because it is all in the mind. The body, as it were, doesn't exist. And what does this mean? This means that there is no gravity. And remember, this is the big problem of the scientists today, the problem of gravity, and how the gravity can be brought into the picture so that everything is a unity, so that everything is one. We don't feel the weight on Shabbat. We come back to that cuff, keeping it up. And if you have weight, you let go, gone. Anything which is heavy, anything which is a burden, anything which requires effort is gone. It's not there. No gravity. And that is why we don't do anything which requires strain, which requires us to involve ourselves. For example, moving a motor car, to get it to move, to get it to run. It doesn't exist because gravity does not exist. And if there is no gravity, everything is light, everything is uplifting, everything is up there, everything is elevating. Menucha, and the basis of Menucha, Noach. And what is Noach? Noach is at ease. You are totally and completely at ease. Everything is Noach. It is so pleasurable. It is lovely. We talked about the senses. All the senses are involved in Shabbat. The sense of the smell of the beautiful food, the sense of taste, tasting the beautiful food. All the senses, the sense of touch, that's all there. So how many senses are there? Well, there are the 5 ordinary senses. Then we talk about the 6th sense, which is intuitive. And you have intuition because intuition is from everything that comes in. It's in the Zion. But there is a 7th sense. There has to be a 7th sense for the Shabbat. Is a 7th sense. And what is the 7th sense? The 7th sense is actually coherence. And what is coherence? At the very basic, when you are coherent, you are understood perfectly. And how are you coherent? You're coherent in your speech, in your language, in the use of the letters. But there is another aspect of coherence. And that coherence leads us to everything to stick together at a higher level, where each and every point is in itself an entity. The 7th sense. It makes sense because we achieve a state on Shabbat not achieved at any time during the course of the week. And this coherence will be discussed separately. It is something on its own. But it relates, and we can see that it relates to symmetry. It relates to the balance. It relates to the super coherence. It relates to everything which is right up there at the highest level of the mind, which can be achieved on the Shabbat. But it all depends upon what we call the reversed process. And we have seen it going back. Shabbat, tashuv, tashuva, going back. I keep on referring to the reversed process, going back. And where do we have it? Where do we have it spelt out in black and white? We want to know that. Because everything that we are saying has to be shown to be correct, to be true. It's not just a story. It is the emet, the absolute, proven truth. And you have it in what is called the Musaf. There is an additional prayer on the Shabbat, the Musaf. And the Musaf, any of you who know anything about the formulation of the acts of the Torah, know that in the Musaf of any particular festival, of any particular special day, in the Musaf you've given the basis of it. And we are given in the Musaf. And what does the Musaf say? It starts off, Tikanta Shabbat. Tikanta. Litakein is to perfect the imperfect, and that is what the Shabbat does. And the Shabbat itself has been perfected from the imperfect, from the chaos to the cosmos. That is what it is, Tikanta Shabbat. And then it carries on in the statements of 22 statements, corresponding to 22 letters of the alphabet, starting off with the Tav, which is at the end, and ending off with the Aleph, which has the beginning. The Tikanta Shabbat in itself is a reversed process. It goes in reverse. And there it is. That is the basis. That is actually how we should think to understand things. That is the problem of the mind today. The mind only goes to expand, and that is the clockwise. But the mind also goes anti-clockwise, the other way. Tikanta Shabbat, the anti-clockwise way to go into ourselves. And the more we go into ourselves, we go to end up in the center. And the center is that single point which is the Ein Sof, which is eternal. That is it. What is the last letter of Tikanta Shabbat with the Aleph? It is the Az. And the Az means then. When then? At the end of time. Az Yashir Moshe. Then Moshe will sing. When? Beyond the Mashiach. Times of eternity. That is when it is. Az. Where do we have Az in our daily stories? We have it. The Wizard of Oz. The wizard who waves a wand. Waving the wand to bring a wonder. What is it? The Wizard of Oz. The magical man. The Oz of Shabbat. The magic of Shabbat. Starts from a point, comes back to the point. And when we see the point, we have achieved in its totality a little taste of eternity.